because even, wow, this color is so nice, so vibrant. Wow, that is such a nice color. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet looking for art supplies to make your life just a little bit easier, or for you to enjoy the craft just that much more. Now today we are going to go to one of my favorite places, which is Five Below, and they have been rebranding and introducing new art supplies, and today we want to cover the dual tip permanent marker set. This is brushes and fine tip, which is an interesting combination if you ask me. I guess it's for journaling and whatnot, but I'm very interested in seeing how these pan out. Generally, the Five Below markers are actually pretty good for the most part. We've done some reviews where some of them didn't pan out so well, but with their new branding and new art supplies, I'm definitely interested to see which one of these are in fact worth it, and today we're gonna try these out. So come on, let's go check them out. Alright, so as you can see, like if you've been following the channel, you've seen a lot of Five Below supplies. And this, right, we've just got a new interesting, it's no longer the plastic cover. That's normally what they had, was just a plastic box, and that was it. Now they're going definitely for some more design work, making it look interesting, right? Appealing so that you want to grab it, showing you that it has a fine tip, although this looks more like a bullet than a fine tip, and so that would actually make way more sense than a fine tip, as in like a fine liner. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with these, but you know, colors, dual tip. One of the things you got to remember, even though Five Below is going $5 and more, this was still, I think it was $4.50. So 24 markers for $4.50. Now, it's got a nice range of colors. You know, they show you what you can kind of do with it, but the ultimate test will be to crack it open and see what happens. So let's go ahead and do that. And as always, we're using the Strathmore 300 series Bristol smooth paper. So it gives a nice uniform look to everything. So pop this open. Oop, I ripped the box already. All right, let's go ahead and dump them out. All right. Okay, so from the start, it feels like plastic. You know, the best thing that you can actually do is actually have a marker that doesn't feel like it's made out of plastic, so there's a higher quality plastic, and this is definitely where I would say they were saving their money, is in the actual plastic, so you can actually feel it. So it kind of feels a little cheap, but you know, it is plastic. It's sturdy, right? It's a actual triangle, so it's got a rounded triangle shape, so eventually it'll stop rolling, hopefully. Nope. The idea is that it'll eventually stop rolling, but because it's so round, it will just roll right off your paper if you're not paying attention. All right. So that looks fairly decent, right? I like that. It's a nice, let's see. Oh, it's very firm. It's a very firm brush tip. It's got a nice tip to it. It looks a little dry though when I look at it, so maybe it's just this one, but it kind of looks a little dry. We might just have to get it warmed up, don't know, to try that out. And then, oh yeah, that's definitely a bullet tip. It's actually one of the wider bullet tips. So let's see, get the focus for you. There you go. Right, one of the wider bullet tips. So I don't know how thin of a line we're going to be able to get. This one definitely looks like it has a lot more ink in it. So there's that. I don't think these post, which they do not at all, right? You start seeing where people save their money when it comes to trying to make budget-friendly art supplies. You know, you have to figure out where can you save your money. And so this one, it's like the cheaper plastic. It doesn't post, right? But in the end, we have to see how it actually works. As far as the size goes, you know, it's not too long, not too short. I got pretty big hands, so it's a decent size. And the triangle shape really does make it better to hold, because when you push your finger up against the triangle tip, right, the bottom part is flat. And so that way it rests really nicely in your hand. So go ahead and try this. We're gonna try the brush first, because if you've been following the channel, then you know I'm not a brush person. If by any chance you are not subscribed, which I know that 81% of you watching these videos is not, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell. Join us and get more information about cool art supplies. All right. Oh, for it being such a very hard brush, like it was a hard brush, but the tip of this brush is very, very, very flexible. So that is nice, and it flows really well. Wow. I mean, the ink flow on it, wow. You can't even argue how nice that flows, right? And if you are able to control it, right, by maneuvering it, putting it up or down, right, you can get some really nice brush strokes in there. Wow. And the ink flow is just, whew, wow, that is so nice. Wow, that brush is really nice. This is a really, really nice brush. And, you know, the color, at least for this one, matches, right? So you got that color and that really matches. All right, let's try this one. All right, nice, decent size. Bullet point. Ink flow is crazy sauce, right? Wow, that's nice. That is so nice. It's not beading at the beginning. Nice. Now I'm curious, because it says that it's a permanent marker. It didn't tell us whether it was alcohol based or watercolor. It seems alcohol based, so we should, in theory, go over here and blend it. Oh, wow, that's really nice. Let's try with a bullet. Look at that. Blends so nicely. Look at that. That's nice. That's really nice. Alright, I guess we'll try a different color. Let's see about this blue. Yeah, once you get it started, yeah, look at that. Yes. Like I said, the ink flow on this. Now, there is something with this brush, at least, like as it goes towards the end, the ink doesn't flow all the way through on this one, so it's actually breaking apart. Right, like right here. Right, so it's starting to feather out, so it's breaking apart, which can be a problem depending on what you're trying to do, but that is definitely a consistent thing right now with this blue one. So the bullet works the same way, right? The bullet works really nicely. So let's try different colors. Let's try the green. So once you get it started, because that's the thing, remember at the very beginning when I said that it was pretty dry, it looked dry? They pretty much are. Until you actually start working with them. Once you start getting it in, like you start working, then the ink can flow on it. And the brush is just amazing. So this blue had a bit of an issue with the tip of the brush, but it doesn't seem like this one does. So I don't think that it is a color thing as far as it is a brush, right? Because even, wow, this color is so nice, so vibrant. Wow, that is such a nice color, right? But as you might not be able to see it as clearly, but this brush is also kind of fraying out on spaces. So one thing that seems to be consistent is that even though the colors are fantastic and the ink flow is great It's the brush itself in some areas just breaks apart. So let's go ahead and try a couple more colors. Flip it over, orange. So, excuse me, but, right, so if you're, this one, as far as the ink goes, I mean, it flows as you watch. It flows really nicely. You can get some nice lines if you go from thin. You can go thin to thick to back to thin. So that's really nice. And the brush on that one seemed fine. So some of them, I think the ones that are drier actually have a problem with the tip. Like this one's really kind of a bummer because it's not as juicy as the other ones were. But and that's just in the tip, it seems like. I think that if you push down on it a little bit, try and let the ink flow go through the actual marker, eventually you can get it down to the ends, but ultimately it really isn't, it's not working as well because the ink's not as flowing. And so that is something that seems a little bit consistent with these. And it could just be my pack that I had an old pack, you know? It's very possible. I don't know. We don't know how long they sit there. But they all kind of start the same way. They're all kind of dry as you get them going. But then some of them, as the ink starts flowing, it goes all the way to the edge. Right? So every little feather line that you make gets all the ink. So I think that's seems to be the only really crazy part at this point, is that when it starts off, they start off dry, and some of them stay that way, whereas others do not. Right? So, but the bullet, the reason I haven't been doing the bullet is because it's always been consistent. With every single one that I've used, the bullet itself is always consistent, which gives you some nice colors, right? All the colors that we've used thus far are really nice. And then you can just come in and do that, right? You can fill it in. So we filled it in here, all right? Fantastic stuff. Let's see, a little bit more. Actually, one thing I do want to do, yeah, see, like some of them, you just got to get them started and they work just fine. Let's see. Maybe not that one. Do a little ink test. Oops. This is Faber-Castell. Then Staedtler. This one's Tombow. And I don't think I really have oh, that one's dead. Alright, so we're just gonna, for the sake of argument, we're just gonna go with Faber-Castell, Staedtler, and Tombow, and we will take this yellow and we're gonna see how it affects these colors. Take a couple different ones. And we'll do this last one. All right. All right. So, as you can see, the only one that's really being affected by these markers is the Staedtler marker. the Faber-Castell and the Tombow seem to be absolutely unaffected by the color going over it, except for just a little bit with the Faber-Castell one right there. But Tombow's ink seems to work just fine with these Five Below markers. So if you plan on doing more comic work where you need an ink line, or if you're just doing line work and you want to use these markers as well, I would suggest using a Tombow marker. Alright, so we just got done reviewing the Five Below dual tip permanent markers. These are the brush and bullet tip markers, and I mean, they're alright. For the price, for the $4.50 that it costs to get 24 markers, these are actually pretty good. There are some issues with the brush as it is not necessarily keeping its point or the ink getting all the way to the end, but those that do work are actually pretty nice. The ink flow is fantastic, the colors are nice and vibrant, they blend pretty well together. So, I mean, for the price, these are actually pretty good. I'm just kind of bummed, at least with my set, that about half of the brushes didn't get full ink. You can still use them, but if you're trying to do finer work, where you're just like, let me flick the feathering and that nice thin line as it goes out, that's gonna be pretty hard when the ink doesn't stay on the brush or go all the way to the tip of the brush. So that's something to look out for. I mean, if you're doing journaling or just some light like coloring for coloring books or just scribbling or anything like that, these are fantastic because you can actually move them around and it's really fast and the flow of ink just stays with you. So that is definitely a huge plus. So I would definitely pick these up if you're looking to do something more as a hobby, and maybe not so much if you have professional work to do. While you can use it, I think that the fight that you will have to make it work isn't going to be worth it. So if you're a hobbyist, like I said, you're trying to do something with a coloring book or you're just scribbling around, then this is going to be a good buy. You can just go ahead and grab those. Alright, well that wraps up today's episode of Is It Worth It? I hope that the information was informative and you got something from it. With that said, if you have any type of product that you would like me to review, please go ahead and drop it in the comments below and I will make sure to add it to the list. Now, if you are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell so that you get notified every single time that I drop new content. Thank you all so very much, and I will see you at the next episode.